Welcome to the Freedom or Bust podcast with Joeel and Natalie Rivera. You are here because you will accept nothing less than the freedom to determine your destiny, do what you love, and fulfill your life's purpose. We believe that self-employment is the ultimate form of empowerment, and our mission is to bring you guests whose powerful entrepreneurship stories and real-world advice will give you the inspiration and tools to create a business and life that you love.
Today's guest is Noor Hibbert, mompreneur and owner of This Is Your Dream Coaching. Noor challenges her clients by asking, how can you look your children in the eyes and tell them to go for their dreams if you don't go for yours? But the truth is, she went on her own journey to get to the place where she is now, which is running her dream business and being a stay-at-home mom. As a young adult, Noor fell into the trap many of us have experienced. People squashing her dreams of becoming an actress by telling her it wasn't possible, and she listened to them. But she knew that she couldn't join the corporate rat race, which is what everyone else was telling her to do. And so she went into the resort business as a holiday rep, which allowed her to travel the world. And after 6 years of adventuring, her biggest dream came true. She became a mum. She moved back to the UK and ended up in a job that she hated. And during maternity leave, she tried to start several businesses, but failed. She also found life coaching during that time, and it felt like she had finally found what she'd been looking for. But she put it off because she didn't feel worthy. She had to go back to that job that she hated, but she was determined to be with her daughter. And so, on her second maternity leave for baby number 2, she quit her job and went all in, creating a thriving Amazon product business. But deep down, she knew this wasn't her calling, and she finally gave herself permission to become a life coach and empower other women to go for their dreams. Today, Noor is a mother of 3. Her energy and enthusiasm for life is infectious, and her all-in, no limits, no BS attitude is what makes her such a wonderful role model for life coaches, entrepreneurs, and parents, because she challenges us all to believe that you really can have it all.
So we are super excited to have Noor with us today for this interview because she has the story that is the quintessential story that we're always trying to look for to use as a model to inspire our people, our students, our clients, because she completely changed her life to live in alignment with her dream. Even though she had all the reason in the world that it couldn't work, she did it anyway. And so I just want to honor you for that, Noor, and welcome you to today's interview.
And I just want to add real quick, you are a perfect example of what's possible if you really follow through, if you believe in your dream, if you have that vision. So again, we're honored to have you here today. So thank you for being a part of this and helping share your knowledge with our audience.
Thank you very much for having me. And thank you for that. That's really lovely.
Yes, absolutely. And so from the introduction, everyone knows a little bit about you, but we want to hear it from you. And so just to start it out, you worked in a completely different field than what you do now. Now you have a life coaching business. And I know it's been a journey of transition from point A to B and C and D and E and F and to where you are now. And so I just want to start out with giving you a chance to kind of talk about what field did you come from and what was the catalyst that pushed you to want to become what we call an indiepreneur or a self-employed freedom junkie. So what was that shift? What did you do before and how did you make that jump?
Oh my God, that's a great question. So basically, when I went to school, I just never really knew what I really wanted to do. But I kind of always, in hindsight, looking back, always knew that it was always about helping people. There was just always this feeling that I would help people. But I didn't know how that would work. And I went to university and actually did a psychology degree, which at the point felt really out of depth for for me, as I was such a creative person, but I was really fascinated with human mind and behavior. And so I thought I did well at, well, it's a different in the UK, but it was, sixth form, which is like your college, I think. Anyway, so I did okay, and I went off to university, and then I actually ended up working abroad in the travel and tourism industry, something completely different. I worked abroad. I lived in Greece and Ibiza, as you lot call it in America, for a couple of years. For 6 years I worked abroad, and I worked my way up, and I was a manager of a team. And it was weird because when I first came across coaching, I thought to myself I would be something like a sales coach or a sales trainer, because that is what my job had kind of always been. I've been in that realm of the sales world. And the thing that changed for me was that when I fell pregnant with my daughter, with my eldest, who is now 6.5 years old, she went off to, the very first time I dropped her off at nursery, I sat in my car and I just cried because she was crying, I was crying. I sat in my car going back to my job. I had actually tried to start up multiple businesses on my maternity leave, and I failed miserably at all of them, mostly because at this point in my life, I didn't realize that mindset was this huge, gigantic thing that I'd never even explored. So I didn't realize that just internally I had so much stuff going on that was never going to be conducive to getting success. So I gave up all of my business ideas, went back to my job, dropped her at nursery, cried, sat in my car, and I was like, if something is there, help me. And it wasn't like the next day that my whole life just changed. It was over a series of a few months after that things started to happen. And I was in Bali on my honeymoon, which is like a really super spiritual place, I've decided. And I was reading a book to do with sales, because I was in a sales job, and I thought, well, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life, so I might as well just get really good at doing this, because then at least I can make enough money to, fund this lifestyle that I want. And as I opened the pages of this book, there was a guy in it who was a coach, and it talked about how he would travel the world and do these events and coach people. And I just remember being sat there and these goosebumps going all over my body, and I just went, this is what I want to do. And I was there on my honeymoon looking on the internet for courses. How can I train to become a coach? And I had been very institutionalized to believe that the only way to do that was to go back to university. So I'm on my honeymoon applying to go back to university at like 28 years old or whatever it was. And that was kind of the moment that I decided I'm going to become a coach. But in that moment, I had no clue how to make a living out of it, how to run a business out of it. That I didn't even know about the online world at this point, right? So for me, I wanted to become a coach, and I'd go and get a job being a coach. And that was all I knew at this point, was that this is what I had to do, and I didn't know the rest. So that kind of was how I decided to become a coach, and how it kind of fell into my world. I went off, trained to become a coach at university, still had no idea how to build a business around it. And for a year, I didn't after I qualified, because I didn't know about the online world. I didn't know what to do. I was scared. Who'd want to work with me? I felt like a fraud. I had imposter syndrome, like you name it. What was the people paying me and can't get results? All of that stuff. And then it wasn't till April 2016 that I joined my first program on how to build a coaching business online, because stuff started to come on Facebook, and there was people advertising stuff. And that's kind of the minute that everything shifted and changed for me.
Well, and what I love about it is that you followed your intuition. You didn't have to know how it was going to happen, but you saw you had the seed planted. And even though you were on your honeymoon, you were still exploring how to make that seed grow. So, and that's the beauty of it, is that, you talk about facing fear and all these different things that you went through, not knowing how to do this or how to do that. And I think for a lot of people starting out, they get overwhelmed with all those things, and they just shut down, and they say, well, I'm not going to do it, or it's impossible, whatever it is. So I think it's important for people to understand that this is normal. It is part of the process for you to have fear, have doubts, not know how everything is going to work out. But you took those steps to really continue to move forward. And I wanted to ask you, obviously as a mom too, what was it like starting a business as a mompreneur? And I think this is important. You know, we work with a lot of parents and things like that. But how was that like? And what suggestions would you make for other parents?
Great question. So, when I first had my eldest daughter, like it was that I was trying my hardest to build a business. The second, first maternity leave, I tried to build multiple different businesses. I actually tried to build a wedding dress business, believe it or not, and imported wedding dresses from China. I tried everything, and then didn't work, went back to my job. Okay, second maternity leave with Safia, I actually built my first online business, and it was an e-commerce business. It was nothing to do with coaching, and it was one of the reasons that I ended up not going down the coaching route, even though I was qualified, was because I thought to myself, well, as long as I was making money, that's all that mattered. And there's a lesson in that the money will not fill that hole. And so I created this six-figure coaching business, six-figure e-commerce business whilst on my maternity leave with my second daughter. And so, don't get me wrong, with my first child, I probably would have never been able to do that. With my second child, I was kind of used to this. I hadn't slept for 3 years. I was used to it. I just kind of muddled my way through that, and I found my feet with that. And for me, because I was working from home, I could just work when the baby was napping. I'd get up early. I'd go to bed at night. To be honest with you, it was non-negotiable for me. I did not want to go back to my job, and I had to actually quit my job when I was 31 weeks pregnant with my second daughter, because I was in hospital and they told me I was going into early labor, and if I didn't slow down, I would have this baby early. She'd be in intensive care. And I remember lying in the hospital and they'd give me all these jabs to like make her lungs develop quick, because they said you're going into labor. And I just remember just praying, like, please, God, like, stay in me, baby, and I'll slow down. Because my job at the time was actually quite demanding. I was working a different sales job, and it involved a lot of traveling. So for me, it was non-negotiable. I'd quit my job. I had no money coming in anymore. I didn't qualify for maternity pay because I quit my job. And so, it was non-negotiable. So I made that work. But what then I found was that making the money on the Amazon piece, it was great for the first year, until that voice inside me was like, this is not your something big. This is not what you were meant to do. This is not what you trained to do. And that's when I then started my coaching business. And then this time round, I've got almost 8 months old, 7.5 months old. And it's been, don't get me wrong, like it's been tough. I've not had a day off from my business, but I also don't care for having a day off. Like I couldn't even imagine, people like, so how long's your maternity leave going to be? I was like, 4 hours, it's fine. I did a group, and I know that I'm kind of crazy, and I'm not advocating that anybody needs to do this, by the way, but my business is so much part of me and what I do. I did a group coaching call with 20 ladies when my baby was 2 days old. She was just like slept on me, and I was on the call and we were chatting, and many people think I'm crazy, but when you do something that you love, there's no distinction between work and play. There's no, on Friday I clock off and I don't think about work till Monday. Like, this is me, my life, my business, my world. So I think when you find that, you get the energy as a mum to be able to do this. And once again, I know I'm like up here on the craziness scale, but I think it's so possible when you really want to, and having the online world to do that makes it even more possible to be able to do that.
Well, one thing that you said that I think is so important is that you said it was a non-negotiable, and you repeated it a couple of times. And we preach that a lot, that something that you want has to become a non-negotiable. It has to be something that you're going to do whatever it takes to actually go from point A to point B. And I also love that you're saying I'm a little crazy, but as an entrepreneur, you have to be a little crazy, right?
Listen, do you know what? When my clients come to me and they're like, you know, how can I just like do 20K a month? I don't really want to put the work in. I said, well, go get a job. You'll get paid £1,000 a month, or £2,000 a month, or £3,000 a month. But if you want to make £20,000 a month, you better believe you got to work for £20,000 a month. And when I say work, I don't mean be stressed out and burn yourself out and work 24 hours a day. What I call it, heart hustle, when you follow your heart and you hustle because your heart is telling you got to do that. And it's like the busyness and the flow and the fun, and it's not it's invigorating, and like that is my my life force when I'm doing that, which I love. And I just anyway, so I really love that, and I think it was non-negotiable. And I think when people kind of like, I just quite like to make, this or do this, I'm like, okay, but you need to show up for that as well, right? You can't, if it was easy and for everyone to do these massive months, and everyone would do it. Whilst I believe 100% it's possible for anybody to do it, not everybody will do it, and show up for their business in that way. So, I think you kind of answered your question.
Well, definitely. And actually, what I think is an important distinction to point out is that the way that you made it non-negotiable was you literally burned the bridge. Like you said, okay, the job is gone, the safety net is gone, so I have to do this. And we call that cliff diving. And we've done that like so many times in our business and in our lives, where it's like, if we really want to do this, we just have to go all in. And there's a second really important thing that I want to point out about what you did. So first of all, you went all in and you made it so you had to, right? And then the second thing you did is you found an opportunity and you dove into it and it started to work. So it's like finding a vein of gold in a mine, and you just kept mining that gold. And that business that you ran, the Amazon business, it was like, it's bringing in the money and I'm just going to keep going. And at some point you had the clarity of mind to say, you know what, this isn't my dream. This isn't my passion. But it's what it did is it gave you a stepping stone. It funded your dream. And I think that that's so important, because a lot of people that want to be coaches or work in a heart-centered field of some sort, they get so attached to it has to be this specific thing that brings me my money. And a lot of times it's a side hustle that brings them their money, or it's some way that they take like their old career and turn it into something that can make them money on their own, which then becomes like the funder of their dream. And sometimes even your job can be like, it's like your job is your bank. It is paying you while you develop your side business. So I just love that you did that you went for what was working, and then you learned how to create the coaching while you were bringing in the income from something else.
And I'm sure also having that business before you started the coaching also helped you realize that it's possible.
Well, literally, I was literally about to say this to you. I was going to say, that first investing in that Amazon course, which at that point it was £2,500 to invest to learn how to build my Amazon business. It was the first big investment I made in myself, because up until that point, I tried to do business by myself. I tried it by myself and it didn't work. And I tried 1, 2, 3, 4 different things. It didn't work. And I recognized that I needed some sort of support and mentorship. When I made that first investment, I was terrified. I remember it like yesterday. I was like, I'm going to have to get the 30-day money back return guarantee. It's not going to work. And I was, what have I done? But as I started to delve into it and I started to see that this is making sense, and if I just follow the steps and I implement the steps, and this is the key, a lot of people will invest and it becomes shelf help. They don't actually implement and then wonder why their lives don't change. As soon as I started doing that and I got results, oh my God, and I remember, I'll never forget, I did my first $1,000 in revenue, and I remember posting in the Facebook group, I'm going to get to 5,000 before my baby's born. And I got to 5,000. I had 2 more weeks. I was like, I wonder if I get to 10,000 revenue before this baby's born. Didn't get to 10,000 when she was born, but 2 weeks after she was born, I worked. I put my heart and soul into it. I said, I'm going to see what happens with this. But what it did, it taught me to take the risk. and it taught me to be a bit more comfortable. And the next investment I made in myself was £5,000 to work to build my coaching business. And that felt really scary because once again, that was pushing me outside of my comfort zone. And that was money that I didn't have. I put it on a credit card, right? But I looked at it and I went, I'm paying you back. Like, I am going to do this. And it took me, I started to build my coaching business in April. When I say started to build, I built the back end of it, the online piece of it. And I set my goal to get my first clients in September. And in my first month of my coaching business, I blew my own dreams out of the water and did £10,000 in revenue in that very first month. I got 6 one-on-one clients. And I went, oh, I can never do this again. It's a fluke. I can't believe it. And I'm happy to report that every month since then, and we're in probably month 27, I've consistently done on average 5 figures and above. And I'm still, I haven't got to that point with like the Amazon where I'm like, this isn't my something thing. I know this is my something thing. And so it's only going to continue to grow.
Well, I also like the fact, and I think it should be clear to everyone, is that investing in yourself is so important. And for us, throughout our journey, we've gone through so many conferences, programs, workshops, reading books all the time. Like, we listen to so many audiobooks, watching YouTube videos. We're constantly growing. And like you said, we're passionate about what we do. So we can work 7 days a week, and people are like, even if we're traveling somewhere, we're still sometimes checking it on the computer, doing a couple of things, but we love what we do. Or we're recording a video, doing something, but we have such a passion for it. But I think everyone needs to understand that the best thing that you could do is continue to invest in yourself, so you can get the tools that'll help you quantum leap instead of just trying to figure out everything from scratch.
Well, and that's exactly what I was thinking. I think a lot of people don't realize the reason why people like us will pay for a program that trains us how to do something or hire a coach is because if you don't do that, then you're basically trying to figure out everything as you go. So you can get there on your own. You can take years of trial and error. There's always another way to do it, but we tried that. We've done that with multiple things where we just didn't take the time, we didn't invest in something. But then we realized this, someone else already did what you want to do. Someone else already figured out what works and what doesn't, and what pitfalls to avoid. And you can pay them for them to teach you how they did it. So instead of recreating the wheel, you just get to take what someone else already created, apply it to yourself. And like you said, if you don't actually apply it to your life, then it's not going to do anything for you. But the truth is, it's a waste of your time. And even though you might feel like you're paying money for something, maybe even money you don't have, the truth is, it might take you 5 years to get to a certain level if you try to do it on your own, whereas this might be a shortcut. Maybe you can get there in a year and it'll more than pay itself back. And so of all the things that we've invested in, every single time, because we're the type of people who actually apply it, it's always paid us back multiple times. And, of course, then there's also a lot of BS out there. So you can end up buying some just don't go for the get rich quick schemes because they don't work. We've tried a couple and they're complete bunk. But we've learned our lessons. And, there's only been a couple times where we've bought something and then realized after the fact, this isn't what we wanted. But most of the time it's a catalyst. It's why take the slow route? Take the shortcut.
Totally get that. I think, and it's not just that. It's when people say, well, I'll invest. This is my favorite one. I'll invest in working with a coach once I've got clients. I say that's like saying I'll invest in a personal trainer once I've lost the weight. It doesn't make sense. It's absolutely ridiculous to say if you can't get the clients to begin with, you can keep trying to get the clients the next 3, 4, 5 months. But what's the point if there's somebody that, exactly what you said, I just love that analogy because I just think it really brings home for people that it's actually craziness. If you don't know how to get the clients in the first place, then if you knew how to get the clients in the first place, you'd be getting the clients. You wouldn't be waiting, and you'd be investing in yourself because you knew that would just help you elevate. And often what I think is that most people that want to be entrepreneurs are smart and ambitious, and therefore give them step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. They'll implement it. But 90% of the issues I come up with my clients, and I'm sure you do, it's never the strategy. It's always, I'm scared, I've got imposter syndrome. It's always almost the mindset stuff. And so having a coach there that believes in you, that has faith in you, that can pick you up when you're not, can call you out on your own BS. That's the piece I think with ROIs that people really miss. It's not the how to build a funnel and how to get your email sequence perfect. It's let me just get over my own bullshit so I can actually show up for my business today, and that's it really.
Yeah. And for us, we completely agree that a lot of the people that we work with, it is the mental state. Is getting past your own barriers and belief systems that really sabotage you along the way. With that said, how do you deal, or how have you dealt with in the past with your own fears and your own limiting belief systems that tend to hold people back in general?
Well, and I know you had mentioned you had a lot of the imposter syndrome. So was it working with the coach that got you past that, or how did you shift your mindset to have that confidence to be able to move forward, specifically as coaching?
Yes. So in terms of that, I remember the Facebook ad like it was yesterday. And I remember just something in me saying, watch this Facebook ad. And it was like I could just feel it. I've got a really, really good intuition, something that I've definitely worked on even more over the last couple of years. A chapter in my book is called Google Doesn't Have All the Answers, because it really doesn't, because you do have all the answers. And when for me, I call them God bumps. Like I just get this feeling, like these goosebumps. And I remember getting that feeling. And this woman that was a coach and sharing her story, she just seemed just like me. And I think once I started to watch her and watch the case studies, I started to realize that if she can do it, then why couldn't I? And that's something that, what was the worst thing that was going to happen? Let's say I invested this money and I didn't get to where I wanted to go. At least I would have learned something. Or, it's just money at the end of the day. And if I don't try, then will I always regret it? And something in me just told me that it was the right thing to do. And I had to just trust that. And it was because I had started to delve in the personal development world. So I started to read a few books and started to kind of start to understand how this mindset stuff was happening. And obviously I'd done my coaching degree as well. So by this point I felt even more like, I get this is just stories in my head. I get that these aren't rational, and I'm going to have to just follow something to change my life. And it felt like the right thing to do at that moment. Even though it was scary, I was like, JFDI, I've got to just effing do it. And I did. So, and it was the best decision I've ever made.
Well, I think the important part is the same thing with creativity, is that, a lot of people misunderstand like creativity because they think just people are just creative, but it comes from accumulated knowledge. And you're talking about how you were listening to things and had an understanding because of your coaching training and things like that about stories. And so, when you're dealing with your own fears and all these different things, it's like one of the best things to do is comes back to having that knowledge and foundation to understand what's happening within yourself so that you can say, okay, this is just me trying to psych myself out. I need to get over this BS and just take the next step. Mm-hmm. So it's like, for us, it's the same thing. It's like, as we keep learning and growing, we're able to then just have more confidence every time we take that next step.
Well, actually, I want to point out that what you did is truly the key to confidence, that not only did you look to someone else as a model of like, if they can do it, so can I, but you took the steps. And that's the thing, is that people get stuck in fear, and instead of doing the thing they're afraid of and then realizing, oh crap, like I sucked at it or I failed at it, but yet I'm still alive and I learned something and I can move on, they just never do it. And that's the misunderstanding about confidence, because confidence is not like feeling confident that you're going to be good at something, or even knowing that you are good at something. It's confidence that no matter what happens, you're going to figure it out. And because you took the risk, that's where your confidence came from. If you had never tried it, then you would have never developed that confidence and gotten over the imposter syndrome.
Absolutely. And also courage. I think that's the one thing that I think as entrepreneurs we need to have, because when we take that courage and we do something, we think, okay, I can do this. It breeds our confidence and our competence, which then makes us more courageous, which then makes us more competent and confident. And then it just starts compounding. Yeah. I really believe courage is like compounded. And the more steps you take into something that you're scared of, the more you go, I'm still alive. It didn't all fall around me. And, and I think my biggest piece of advice for anybody is, when you can embrace failure like a long lost friend, and you're like, hell yeah, I don't mind if this momentously F's up. I'm going on the journey anyway. And if it falls like all around me, it's okay. I'm still going to breathe. My family will still love me. I made it like an idiot, but it's okay. The world's not going to end. When you can look at that and just embrace failure, because that's what we're so scared of as humans, I think that's the shift that for me, particularly, it was like, it doesn't matter if this goes wrong because the world isn't going to end. And I think that was the big shift for me.
Well, actually, I think you were reading my mind too in that point, because I was gonna say something about embracing failure, because that's so important, and also being able to just reframe failure. Because for us, obviously, we've had so many different businesses, and just like you were saying, that you tried many different things, but you learn from everything that you did. So for us, failure is not, oh my God, I failed, this is horrible. I'm such a horrible person. I don't have the tools or whatever it is. For us, it's okay, we failed. What can we learn from this? So with any venture that we have is we try to fail fast, which people say we're really not trying to fail, but we're trying to learn as much as possible quickly. So we put a lot of things out there. We do a lot of things. And when we fail at something, we're like, instead of failure, it's like, oh, okay, this is a teaching experience. This is something that can help us grow. Now, what can we take from what just happened and improve on and make it better?
Exactly. There's no such thing as failure. It's just an opportunity for growth. There's no end. There's no end goal. Like, I've arrived. I'm so successful. I can just stop, because there's always somewhere else to go. There's always somewhere else to grow. There's always somewhere else to learn. And you just get better and more comfortable with going, it's okay. It doesn't matter if it doesn't quite go the way it is. And that's, I think, what makes a really good entrepreneur.
Yes, absolutely. It's like stepping stones. Like I said, like you do something small and you fail at it and you learn, but then you recognize, oh, it wasn't so bad. And so then you try something bigger the next time. And for a lot of people that haven't ever taken the risk, it's like, just start with something small, do something small every day that makes you a little uncomfortable, and that'll start you on the path. And so I'm wondering, obviously, I know you work specifically with women that are trying to start a business. A lot of them want to be coaches. And so I'm curious, in addition to what we already know, this mindset, problem, what do you feel is like that one biggest thing that tends to hold potential life coaches back from actually doing it?
They don't know how to set up their business properly, right? So especially online coaches, okay? So there is really quite a simple strategy to building a business online, but it does involve technology, it does involve software, it does involve getting to grips with how to run an email campaign and fixing up to a landing page and running Facebook ads if you want to do that. And for a lot of people that are new to that, I can understand it feels very overwhelming, right? For me, I can build a funnel in 15 minutes and I feel like I could do it with my eyes shut now. I'm going to set up my Facebook ads with my eyes shut. I've done it so many times. That's because I've gone and done it so many times. But for so many people, especially women, they tend to be techophobic. They tend to be so scared of all the, but what if I put this bit wrong or put the pixel here wrong and all of that stuff, that they don't even go and try. Or they'll go out and get a few clients and then I've got this, but they don't have an infrastructure to their business to grow it, right? And so a lot of women will start a coaching business and then it just starts to teeter off because they don't have the consistency, because there are three key things that I truly believe that you need to create a successful, scalable, profitable online coaching business. One, you need to have an audience. You need to have people that are going to be potential people that are going to potentially invest in working with you. So, I love automatic lead generation. I'm a mum of 3. I don't particularly have time to go to networking events. I definitely don't want to be spamming people in Facebook groups. I definitely don't want to be, messaging people on LinkedIn that I've never seen before. I'd rather people come to me. So some sort of, enticing, attracting, and growing your tribe is number one. Number 2 is engaging, conversing, creating a relationship with those people through content, through whatever you want to do, Facebook Lives or content, emails, whatever. But there's got to be a way that you bring these people into your world, and you want to get them to know, like, and trust you, or know, love, and trust you, right? And that way, then, when it comes to creating that abundance in your life and making that difference to people, there are people there that already know you, they know what you do, and they want to work with you. And the most important piece is that I think with all the BS on the online world and a lot of kind of, click your fingers, you make 20K in 1 minute, or, and all of that stuff, people kind of go into the coaching industry, I think, for the wrong reasons. And I think those ones quickly die off and disappear, because actually to create a long-lasting business that makes the impact and remain a good coach and keep integrity and get consistency, you need to show up consistently and do those 3 things consistently. And I think the biggest thing I see is that people want a quick fix. So, okay, I saw this person make 20K in 1 month. How can I do it quickly? And it's like, if that's what you believe in, coaching isn't for you, because first and foremost, if you put the money before the service, you're going to struggle to make the money, right? So I think the biggest thing I see is tech, putting the foundational infrastructure in their business to generate the consistency, which then creates a scalable and profitable business.
And we love it, especially because a lot of coaches that we've worked with, they want a coaching business, but they miss the business side of that title. Yes. So,
there's a lot of healers as well. Like, they're really good healers, but when it comes to building a business, it's like, I don't know what to do. And I totally get that, and especially as women, men are very different. They use like a different part of their brain, and they just get on with this stuff, and if they can't get on with it, delegate it. Whereas when women are just like, oh, I can't do a landing page. I'm like, it's fine. It's just a landing page. It's not going to eat you. But I think it's just once you just know what you need to do, and it's mapped out step 1, step 2, step 3, it's very different. But yeah, you cannot make the impact. I have so many women that have this huge desire to make a big impact. The online world is a phenomenal way to do that and reach people across the globe, like in a big way. But you need to understand how to do that. And that's the business piece of it.
Yeah. And that's one of the most important piece, again, that people miss. We know a lot of people that have started and they put up a website and they assume that people, it's like, I just finished my website, I'm going to get so many clients.
Look at my business card.
Yeah, this is so exciting. And it's like a month later and they're like, I haven't got one phone call. I don't understand what's happening. And it's like,
oh my, I spoke to a girl yesterday and she was like, yeah, so lovely, really wants to do this. Yeah, I kind of just post on Facebook sometimes every day, but sometimes not really every day. Maybe like a couple times a week. I'm like, what else do you do? I was like, that isn't a business, that's a hobby, and you may get 1 or 2 clients by posting a few posts on Facebook every day. But if you think people create 20K months or 30K months or $1 million businesses or even 6-figure business, even a 50K business, right? By just posting every day on Facebook, then everyone would just be doing that and they'd be making loads of money and quit their jobs. It's a business, and therefore there's a structure that needs to be in place in order to, like, even with a brick and mortar, to create the traffic, to engage the traffic, and to convert the traffic. It's just simple business stuff. But yeah, a website.
Well, actually, it's interesting when you were talking about when you first found out about coaching and you first got training, that it sounded like originally you were kind of thinking it like, I'm going to get a degree in coaching, and then I'm going to get a job in coaching. Yes. And I think there's a big misunderstanding, because they're really, unless you are a manager in a big company, the odds that you're ever going to get a job as a coach are extremely small. There isn't really a coaching job. It's an independent thing. I don't think a lot of people recognize that.
Well, it's interesting because I thought I was going to have to relocate to London. I live in the north of England because there were no coaching jobs. And I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? So when I found out the online world, I was like, oh, hallelujah, universe, you have delivered. And I've got clients all over the world now, and it just blows my mind. So I think, don't get me wrong, I think that there are coaches in, corporations, and you can do it freelance, and I think it's definitely going to grow over the next 10 years. But the sweet spot, the place of freedom, and is in the online world for sure.
Yeah, and that's what we preach to everyone. Obviously, we had several physical businesses. We had a coaching center, and we had all these different things that were physical. But really, I don't think we would ever go back to having a physical business. It's just, there's no point on it at this point, because you can make such a bigger impact if you're online. And I think another important part that you said is that a lot of people focus on the money side, And I think the biggest impact that we had on our business and the biggest impact that we see other people that are extremely successful is that they focus on their legacy side. They're focused on the contribution. Like, what am I doing to make an impact? And that's when you say that I'm willing to work, 7 days a week, or I'm willing to put all these hours in, is because you're doing it from a different place than if somebody was just focusing on money. Because money will only motivate you to a certain extent. But if you're doing it because you genuinely feel like you're making a difference and you're following your purpose and your passion and your calling, then it's going to be a different feeling about, actually putting the work in.
Although I want to point out, it's funny because there's a flip side. So like the contribution is where the motivation to like work like a crazy person comes from. But at the same time, especially coaches or heart-centered business people, like they want to do something because they care about it, but they don't think about the money at all. And so they don't actually do anything to make any money because they just tend to give away what they do. Yeah. So it's like, it's finding that balance point, is using your passion as a catalyst, but then learning the practical stuff you need to do so that you're actually getting paid to do what you love.
Absolutely. And this is a money mindset thing, right? It just simply is a wealth consciousness thing. It's a, back in the day, money is just an exchange of value and energy. And once we understand that we can create that value in people's lives, and we can be like, let's create the abundance. We need money to live, and trying to disregard that is absolute craziness, right? We need that, and we all should deserve to have all the abundance that we want. That's how we were, we weren't created to fail or to live a life where we're struggling. We were created to have an abundant life. And something that a coach told me years ago, which just, I've never forgotten it. You want to make more money, become more valuable. You want to make more abundance, give more. And that's just always just, with everything that I do, I look at how can I serve, because I know when I serve, I will get the abundance coming back to me. And if that abundance that I want, and I love money, and I think we should love money, because it is just an incredible energy flow that just goes round and round, and it does so much amazing stuff for the world and for our lives. So we shouldn't disregard it at all. And it should still be a focus, because it's a tool, and it's a way for us to make a bigger difference in the world. You can't do anything poor. You can't help people if you're broke yourself, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. And that really is an important thing for people to recognize in the heart-centered field. And we could, you speak the same language as us. We could go on about this all day, but that if you don't allow yourself to be valuable and to bring in income, then you can't help people. Like, you can't. So one of our favorite phrases we ever heard from one of our mentors was, stop giving away your business and selling your charity. So just think about that one. Think about that, because that's exactly what happens. We give away what we should be selling because we're trying to sell what we would want to do out of the kindness of our hearts. So it's a big, if you're a coach and you're listening to this, I'd say the one thing to focus on is mindset. If you haven't gotten that message from this interview, that is the key ingredient.
Well, one of the questions I also want to ask, because I think that a lot of entrepreneurs or indiepreneurs have a problem with, especially if you have children and a family, how do you find balance, or how do you create balance in your life and your business?
I actually had a quote. It was called balance schmalance. So I was like, balancing feels very difficult. It feels like I'm like, I don't know exactly what you mean, so I'm sort of taking the nick there. How do I be a mother and a businesswoman and a wife and have a social life? Well, I have a very, very good diary, and I'm very good at literally putting in my diary every single day what needs to be done. And this includes time with husband, time with children, time to go to the gym, although I've not been very good this month. It's been in the diary, it hasn't happened. And literally actually prioritizing what needs to happen in the day, but also having a team that helps me with stuff. So as well, of course, so then it means I can be with my kids, and understanding and being kind to myself, and not making myself wrong for, needing to do something during a launch, or, wanting to just sit on the sofa with my kids. Like, I don't, I've kind of got to the point where, the first couple of years of your business, you do want to put a lot in to make it grow and make that impact. And there'll be times it's slightly busier and times that you're not. There's going to be times that you spend with the kids and not. And I think it does, especially as a self-confessed workaholic, because I just love it. I could easily spend all day in my office doing stuff, but my kids just have to fend for themselves. But that's not the point of my life, right? They are my life. So it's about recognizing what needs to be done to move my business forward. If it's not going to move my business forward, I simply won't do it. If my children are there, or, I will, and in the beginning of my business, I would get up at 5 o'clock in the morning before they woke up. And I'd do the work in the hour and a half, and I got really good at being productive because I used to call myself a nap time hustler, and I'd do videos like, I'm doing my nap time hustle. And it's because I knew I had 45 minutes to get stuff done. And once you know what you need to get done and you do it, trust me, our brains work to incredible deadlines when you need to get done. And so being super conscientious about your prioritization during your day and knowing what you need to do to move your business forward. If it's a BS task, it doesn't need to be done. Spend time with your kids, have your nap, whatever, do something else, right? So it takes time to find your flow.
Well, I love that phrase, a nap time hustler.
That's awesome.
And, I think you're absolutely right as far as like finding your flow. Like it does take time, but I also love the fact that, like us, we write everything down, and even like the things that we want to do for fun. It's not just like writing down the things that we're doing for business, just to make sure that they're scheduled in what the things they want to do. Because as people that love what we do, it is easy to kind of fall in that trap where you're constantly doing something, because as an entrepreneur, there's always something to do. Like you can't.
It's always something to do. Yeah. It's always something else you can launch or do, or, and I think that's it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So like the obsessive planning really is the key to being able to do it all. And you're absolutely right. Like there is no balance. And that's kind of the point that we always say, is that it's never, balance doesn't mean equal. It means that finding what works for you. Like it's not, and it doesn't have to be perfect. And I think what you said is key, that when you're like in what we call rabid beaver mode and you're working on your business, you don't beat yourself up for the fact that you're not spending time with your kids. And then when you're taking the time to spend with your kids, you don't beat yourself up for not getting that thing done, because this is your moment for your kids. And that's something that I think holds a lot of people back that have kids, is that the guilt, one way or another, they're going to feel, regardless of what they're doing, they're going to feel guilty. And that like, you have to make it okay to live your own life. Like that's key.
And I do think that you should trademark that, nap time hustle.
Definitely. I've got loads of made up words that I'm going to trademark. Don't you worry, my book's full of made up words.
So funny. We use funny words too. Like our hyper work mode is called rabid beaver mode. Like just like crazy. Yeah, so we've got a couple final questions. One of them would be like real quick, looking back at your younger self, like when you were first like taking that leap, quitting your job, becoming an entrepreneur, what would you tell your younger self? What's that one piece of advice that you wish you'd known?
I wish that I'd done it earlier. Although I say I wish I'd done it earlier, but I also know that everything happened just so divinely right. And that's the hardest. I tell my younger self to just totally trust and believe the universe has got my back. And to, like, I in my book I call it a manifest skeptic. Like I was like, I don't know if this manifesting stuff's real. Bit of a skeptic here. But to totally believe and have faith that there is something out there that is so supporting you. And if you really want what you want, you will have everything you've ever desired as long as you have the faith. And I think if I tell my younger self anything, it was stop saying that you're an atheist, because that is bollocks, because you don't need to be an atheist because actually that means you don't believe in anything and there is something way more powerful out there. And for me, that's been my spiritual journey, and that's honestly been the biggest game changer out of everything. And when it comes to mindset work, it's the faith and trust that there's definitely some universal intelligence that's working to conspire to make us have what we want.
And I love that, because for me, I think the biggest impact was when I truly, not just consciously, but emotionally and spiritually understood that like my life was happening for me and not to me. Like every experience that was happening, whether negative or positive, was a growing experience to help me get to the next level. So when I had a challenge and something negative would happen, it's like, okay, this is just to help me grow, to teach me something. Am I getting what I'm supposed to be getting from this?
Yeah.
So it's like that trusting part, I think, is so essential for so many people, because if you deep down in your core trust that everything's going to be okay, I think that you're limitless at that point. You can really let go of fear. Even if you feel the fear, it's just that realization that no, it truly is going to be okay.
Well, that's really the core of our message and everything that we do, is that there's a higher purpose for your life. Like your dream, those things that even if you like kind of try to squish it down, stuff it down, pretend you don't have it, like it's in there. It's not going away. Your heart knows what it wants, but it's almost like, it wants that destiny. It wants that purpose that it knows is in there. And so it's that even when you're afraid and you don't know how it's going to work, if you just trust that there's a reason that you feel that way, and you also trust that the things being given to you are to help remind you to go there. And sometimes you need a really good butt kicking to get yourself to go. And so when, bad things keep happening, it's probably trying to tell you something. And so like your story is such a great example of, following that. And I love what you said. It's like, stop calling yourself an atheist, because in order to have faith and trust that there's something worth living for, you have to believe that there's something there. And so it's like, it doesn't matter what you call it or like what perspective you take. It's just recognize that there is something more going on here and there's a purpose to your life.
Totally get that. Yeah.
And lastly, and then I also want you to share after this question, really some of the things that you're excited about that you're working on. But before we get to that, is what difference do you want to make in the world? Like if you reflect back on your legacy, like what legacy do you want to leave behind for yourself and for your business and for the world and those that you serve?
Yeah. So like privately, like what are your goals, your vision for your family? And then also for the bigger picture, the people you serve, like what difference are you trying to make?
So in terms of my family, I'm a mother to 3 girls. And for me, I just don't ever want them to feel how I felt growing up, where I didn't really know where I belonged, how I fit in. And most importantly, for me, I just knew that I could look at my girls in the eyes and say, you must go for your dreams, if I wasn't going for mine, right? So it was, practicing what I preach and walking the talk and showing up for myself, because I know that my children are looking up to me as this is what's going to happen if I do this, right? So in terms of for them and their perspective, it's, I believe they came in my life because that was the moment that my whole life changed, and I stood up for my own, like, I've got to do this now. There's no hiding anymore. And I want my kids to look up to, I want my kids to look up to people that are making a difference in the world, not Instagram models, right? I kind of do a little bit of a video. I'm like, I want coaches to be like the new celebrities, because we've got such an important message to say about mindset changing your life. I want my kids watching that, not, looking at the girls that have got those plastic surgery and, being naked all over Instagram. Because so for me, I guess my legacy or my goal is to help as many other women become coaches that can then spread this message to help more women be more happy and secure in themselves, so that we can then create, our children and our girls are growing up in a world where it's not all about, and I've been there, like feeling insecure, not being happy about myself, feeling depressed, feeling confused. And as a coach, I get to make that difference in people's lives, where, I did a challenge in December. I had 1,000 people sign up for this, over 1,000 people sign up for this challenge. And I was getting messages from women all over the world who hadn't even paid a penny to work with me, telling me that this week had changed their lives. And I mean, they use a lot of expletives, so I won't use them. But, like just genuine messages of just sheer gratitude. And I say to my clients, it's not even the money, it's this. It's these moments, these exact moments where you show up. And for the most part, I always think I'm talking a load of rubbish because I just get really hyper. But it's the fact that they go, it's what I needed to hear. And I think I know that my my purpose in this world is that I've been through all of the shit in my life because I've come out the other end and I can go, there is another side to all of this and I'm going to show you how. So that's my legacy is I just want people to turn around and go, every person I meet in some way to go, she made an impact, something she said or something she did or something, just stop, even if it's a little bit. That to me success is if I can imprint on every single person that comes in my world. So that's my goal.
I love it.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I'm totally with you on that it's, as a woman entrepreneur, it's like there's this drive to be the model that gives permission to other women and makes them feel like you said, when you first, that first coach that you saw was like, wow, she can do it. So can I. And it's just a chain reaction. And so with that said, what are you the most excited about that you're working on in your business right now? I know you've got some good stuff going on. So please share, where's your heart right now? What are you rabid beavering about at the moment, keeping you busy?
I'm rabid beavering about loads of things at the moment, but I got a book deal. That was one of my biggest dreams for last year, and one of the ways that I knew that I could make that bigger impact on the world that I truly desired. My book is actually called Just Effing Do It. It's and Stop Playing Small and Transform Your Life. The subtitle's being tweaked at the moment, but basically the whole book is around how do we bring psychology and spirituality, how do we change our mindset from a brain perspective, but also from a spiritual perspective, how do we really change our life. And it talks about how to manifest and how to make the universe your best friend and how to really change your energy. And I talk about all of this amazing stuff that really changed my life. It's got nothing to do with business. It's all around how can I change my mindset and change my life, because I say ultimately as humans all we want to do is be happy. That's all I ever wanted to do. I just wanted to wake up and feel happy, and for so much of my life I just didn't know how to make that happen. And so I take everything that I've learned and I've put it in this book that, I have a dream will be, Instagrammed all over the world by people. Like, I got the book. So I'm working on the third manuscript. Publication date is June the 13th, which means it'll be launched in the UK June the 13th, and in some other countries around that time as well. And hopefully we'll be launching in the USA. So I'm working on getting those last bits done, and then we'll be really pushing the PR and growing, getting the word out that Just Effing Do It's going to be out. And it really is about inspiring people to just know that they just go for their dreams, that everything is on the other side of just taking those first steps. So I'm working on that, and lots of amazing stuff happening in terms of business. I've got my Game Changer program, which is helping women who really want to change the game of their lives, but also the lives of others through coaching. And lots of amazing stuff coming up in terms of business and, programs that I'm doing. So very busy, but in a really great way.
Well, we love it.
That's exciting.
Yeah, you're continue to expand your wings and impact more and more people. Obviously, we love your energy and we love what you bring to this world. So thank you for what you do. So if people want to reach you or they want to check out your work, or what's the best way to do that?
So I'm on Facebook. This is your Noor Hibbert. This is your dream. No, how's it written? This is your dream with Noor Hibbert on Facebook. So just type my name in. I'm the only Noor Hibbert in the world, so you'll find me. I'm on Instagram. Once again, just type Noor Hibbert. Mompreneur is my hashtag thingy. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm everywhere. You can find me anywhere. Just put me in Google and you'll find me somewhere. I'll be somewhere.
And we'll put a link to your website in the show notes. So.
thisisyourdream.com. So yeah.
Awesome.
Well, again, thank you for sharing your wisdom, your knowledge, for what you do to change the world, for inspiring people to follow their dreams and to trust that everything will unfold the way it needs to if they're willing to take the next step. We honor you for your light and what you bring to this world. So thank you for sharing it with us.
Yes. And I especially want to point out that for all of those people who are always asking, where can I find a great role model as a life coach? You are a great shining star in life coaching for so many reasons, not only because you help other coaches to become successful, but just that you're the real deal, and you cliff dove into it, and you invested in the training, and you learned as you went, and you did all of the things right. So if there's anyone watching, again, that's a coach, which a lot of our clients and viewers are coaches, like, just model what she does, learn from her. She's a great example of not just a coach, but as being an indiepreneur that makes it on their own. So thank you for being you above all else.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I love being here with you.
All right, take care.
Thank you, fellow Freedom Junkies, for listening. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. And if you want to help us grow, please rate and share this podcast. You can also become a member of Freedom Nation. Visit freedomorbustpodcast.com and sign up to receive access to exclusive content and take the 21-day happiness challenge. As you know, we believe that entrepreneurship is the ultimate form of empowerment, which is why we created the Side Hustle Business Startup course for anyone looking to create their own income and take back their power. We offer an exclusive discount for our podcast listeners. Find out more at freedomorbustpodcast.com.